Okay. Hello, this is Natalie Swan. For my microeconomics presentation, I will speak about the labor market of lifeguards. Quick introduction on some of the topics we will discuss today is first, the industry structure. I'm going to talk about why the market's a monopsony. Then I'll go a little bit into some of the positive and negative externalities, the government regulations, the role that diminishing marginal return plays, the market efficiency, specifically the labor of supply and demand, and new technology that could completely alter the way the market is for lifeguards. Okay, first off, the industry structure. So the market would be considered a monopsony. This is because there's few employers, such as local governments or private resort owners. This means that sometimes, not sometimes, usually, or most likely, there's dominant employers who are given a lot of power over the wages and working conditions. Because of this, they can set wages lower than in more competitive labor markets, and workers have limited options, limited alternatives from where to pick to work. This creates a lack of competition, which forces workers to accept the lower wages, the reduced benefits, and even bad working conditions. I put a monopsony graph over here. So the optimal level would be when the marginal cost meets with the demand, which is right here. But because of the labor supply, the wage actually is over here because it's set to the labor supply. So as you can tell, this is the realistic one where you work at quantity one and you receive wage at quantity one, which is still like pretty decent. But the optimal level would be where you work less, you put less labor, but you receive more money. Of course, that's just not the way life is, so we're stuck here. Next, the public versus private sector. So, in a public sector for lifeguards, this usually means that the wages are lower due to budget constraints, but lifeguards do receive better benefits, such as health insurance, retirement plans, and paid leave. This means that the job security is most likely stronger, especially for full-time positions with more stability for the year-round roles. On the contrary, in a private sector, they're more likely to earn higher wages, especially for in high demand areas like luxury resorts. But some of the benefits are usually limited or just non-existent. But when there are benefits, they usually vary from discounts or access to the resort. Some of the effects of the barriers to entry are the lack of competition, which can result in lower wages since employers have less incentive to raise pay when there are few other job options. Because of this, because of the limited positions, it can restrict job opportunities, leading to fewer entry-level openings. And it just makes the employees have to accept the wages and conditions offered by the employer as they lack alternatives. Fewer employers, this makes there be fewer, because of the fewer employers, there's also fewer job opportunities in the lifeguard market, which could contribute to a less competitive environment, suppressing wages and career futures for people. And it can also discourage new employers from entering the market because of the restricting competition, and it just can overall stall the wage growth. Externalities. So some of the positive externalities that lifeguards create are by enhancing the public safety at pools and beaches. This is also they're also there to limit the amount of injuries and just create relaxation for families to enjoy their day with no worry, no stress, know that they're safe, their kids safe, and it's going to be a great day. It also reduces the public cost since it gets rid of the burden on emergency services, improving overall public health and reducing public cost, increasing the widespread of societal benefits, public health. Some of the negative externalities could be pollution at beaches or even poorly maintained pools where they don't put enough chlorine or they just don't clean the pool. And if you don't clean the pool, there can be fungus, bacteria, fog in the water, just even like sea creatures could get in it. It just creates a bad environment for people, or even at the beach. If there's pollution, like even just glass on the floor, someone could step on that and they could have a life-threatening injury. Because of these dangerous conditions, it requires lifeguards to focus on more than just safety monitoring, creating higher stress levels that can also potentially lower the job satisfaction. Because of this, lifeguard positions may look less attractive, leading to a higher turnover ratio and potentially higher wages to compensate for the increased workload. Moreover, employers might face difficulties in filing positions, leading to labor shortages in the areas. Now, oh wait, I didn't talk about this. Supply of labor decreases. Oh, well, this can be because since there's an increase in the duties and risks because of all of the pollution and whatnot, and it can make it can allocate, actually, what was I? Oh, well, because of all the duties and the risks, it can affect the labor supply and cause a strain in the market since not as many people want to have a job that deals with all of this. Okay, moving on to the government intervention. So, some of the government policies reduce negative externalities by allocating public funding for better maintenance of pools and beaches. This can lessen environmental hazards and ease the lifeguards' workloads and improve public safety. Additionally, the stricter regulations on safety and cleanliness can also enforce better standards, reducing risks and creating a more attractive environment that's healthier for both lifeguards and visitors. Government regulation. So some of the government regulation, some of the role that they have in this is certification requirement. You must be CPR, first aid, and certified and have lifeguard training. It's all mandatory and it requires time and financial investment because of course you have to pay for all of this. And secondly, there's a physical test where you have to swim, have endurance and strength, and it's all essential. Next is the minimum wage laws. The government can impose these laws overall. Well, they did impose these laws to raise lifeguard compensation, and it's just to ensure fairer wages and improving the workers' quality of life. This can lead to negative effects on employment levels if employers can't afford the increased wages. As a result, some employers may reduce hiring or even cut hours. Moving on to safety and liability laws, the regulations can increase demand for lifeguards, but not everyone can comply with it. And this is because obviously some of the rules and requirements that are needed, not everyone was made to follow them. Because of this, businesses may need more lifeguards to comply with the regulations, boosting the labor demand. This can also lead to increased wages since employers want to attract qualified individuals, so they might pay them more. Diminishing marginal returns. So, relating to lifeguards, adding more lifeguards to a given area can lead to progressively smaller increases in safety and effectiveness. Hiring more lifeguards can improve in coverage and response times, but beyond a certain extent, it can contribute to a less safety in the area because it becomes overstaffed. Overall, it can reduce the efficiency and it can lead to unnecessary wage costs without significant improvement in service and safety. And so for this graph, as you can tell, this is the number of workers, this is the level of output. So over here, the more workers you hire, of course, it gets better over time. But then when you reach a certain extent, which here the case is 7, this is the most efficient it's ever going to get. If you hire an 8th one, as you can tell, the output of efficiency goes down. And this is because if let's say there's now 8 workers at a pool working, it's overstaffed. And yeah, they can look more, but maybe like because they're overstaffed, one of them might be like, oh wait, well there's another guy here, so I don't have to look around because I can just go on my phone. Or they could just distract each other, or it just becomes a mess and the level of efficiency goes down because they could just simply get in each other's way. So for this scenario, the most that they should ever hire would be 7. Okay. The market efficiency in the lifeguard labor market. Oops. Okay. Um, the labor demand. So one of the main characteristics about lifeguarding is that it's a season job and it's during the summer months that the demand for lifeguard increases significantly. The demand for lifeguards is influenced also by the size and number of pools and beaches, as well as the public's interest in the activities. The seasonal demand curve creates a fluctuation in the number of hours worked and the wages paid to lifeguards, leading to periods of both surplus and shortages in the labor market. And a big factor to an overall shortage that is happening and did happen recently would be the pandemic in 2020 when many people just didn't want to go out afterwards. An example would be in Austin, Texas. Their shortage, they only had 62% of lifeguards return after the pandemic, so they were only able to open 15 out of 32 pools. Likely or similarly in Canada, again, because during the pandemic they had to fire a plethora of lifeguards. And so many were after that, many of them just did not want to return. They just didn't want the job anymore. And because of this, it created a shortage in the labor market for lifeguards. Moving on to the labor supply, lifeguard positions are usually entry-level jobs that are filled with teenagers and young adults who are looking for a temporary job. Since they're entry-level positions, they may not provide sustainable income for workers. Entering this requires a certification, which does act as a barrier to entry. And because of this, there's such a smaller amount of individuals that are able to apply for this job, since they all need to meet the requirements and the demands from the certification, which creates a labor shortage. Oops. Finally, the labor equilibrium. So this just leads to issues related to income distribution, as lifeguards typically receive lower wages compared to other sectors. Lifeguards are usually young people, and since they work during the summer, they are not able to earn a steady living wage. This leads to income inequality. And as you can tell, if you compare different areas, you see a wage differentiates. And this is because in some areas, they have a shortage, they don't have as many lifeguards, so they pay more. But in other areas, they have a surplus of lifeguards, so but they can pay the minimum because they have so many lifeguards. And over here, I put this graph, demand supply graph. You can tell right here, this represents the shortage because no matter what the level of output, they're not reaching like the the demand. As the demand goes down, the supply goes up. And at Q1, of course, the supply is pretty low, but so is I guess, the price, how much they're paying. But then over here at Q2, the price is still pretty low. Even though the supply is all the way up here, the demand that they're getting is all the way down here. So this creates overall a shortage in the market. Finally, technology. So this marine robotics firm called Hydronalyze came up with this robot called Emily, which stands for Emergency Integrated Life-Saving Lanyard. And so this is pretty much just a remote controlled 1.4-meter long buoy with foam covered by red canvas and surrounded by these yellow ropes. And it was made since, of course, the ocean, it's extremely strong, a rip tide, a huge wave, whatever, sea creatures. It can pull in so many people and it puts so many lives at risk. But with this amazing, innovative invention, they can put this in there and put less lives at risk. For example, if a lifeguard takes too long, they can just send this thing in and it can save up to 5 people at a time. And the ropes let swimmers cling onto the device or climb on top of it, like this guy, until a lifeguard arrives at the scene. Overall, it's way more efficient because while this can save 5 lives at risk, it gives the lifeguards time to react, to swim in, to actually grab the people and pull them out. And since it is remote controlled, people can just turn around and make it come back into the wave. I mean, back into the beach or the shore, whatever it's called. So it was a great idea overall. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.